you will realize that if you want to be successful at it, there's something that is very crucial for it. And that thing, and the most important thing I would say in every regard, is awareness. And it's just like a meditation, like being consistent at self improvement, being consistent at your business, being consistent at everything. It's all about focus. It's all about exactly like you would do on a meditation, that you understanding how it works, understanding that you sit down, you close your eyes and you start breathing and you focus on your breath. And what will happen is that your mind will drift away and you will gently, without judgment, bring it back to your point of focus, and you will keep focusing on your breath. Every single time it drifts away, you bring it back. And what happens is that every single time that happens is like a push-up, like a rep. What happens there is that you are shortening the time that takes you to become aware that you drifted into thought, and you're expanding your awareness. You're making it more powerful. You're making more powerful your capacity to focus. Now, extrapolate that to everything in life. You want to hit your goals in your business? You're going to start working very hard and you're going to start slacking and drifting away. And all it takes for you is just like to realize that, become aware, and bring yourself back. Bring yourself back every single time you are slacking on your self-improvement routine. Oh, what happened? Oh, you bring yourself back. You bring yourself back and you keep making progress. It's like if you want to get, like if you're in the middle of a party or something, and you want to get to the other side of the room, and imagine you're walking and every single person in the party stops you to talk to you, and you gotta be able to say no, 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 no. Maybe there's a very interesting thing or a very interesting person, let's say a very hot girl, that you're going to get her number or something, and she stops to talk to you, and you're thinking like, all right, it's worth the distraction for a couple of minutes, and then go back and keep walking until you reach the end of the room or whatever. You see?
Yeah, 100%. One thing that I've also realized is that for me, when it comes to self-improvement, I have been at times feeling pretty anxious. I've not really enjoyed the pursuit of becoming a better version of myself. And I sort of came to a conclusion about it when was it? Maybe in October, November, something like that. I basically realized that the key to basically finding inner peace, happiness, fulfillment, all of that is basically just awareness and accepting this very moment for what it is. If I have anxiety, just integrating it into my life and just being okay with it being there, but still doing the things that I'm supposed to do, for example, meditating, reading, all of that, that literally changed my life. I don't know if there's a book on this that is very, very interesting. It's called The Power of Now. I don't know if you've read it, but since you're into spirituality and all of that, I think if you haven't read it, I think you should read it and you would find it very interesting.
Yeah, it's very funny because a lot of the times I usually talk to people, when I talk about this subject specifically, I talk about the idea of how between stimuli and response there's a gap, and in that gap lies absolute freedom, because you can choose your response. If you have enough awareness, you can become aware of the stimuli and what is basically bringing outwards from you, and then you can stop for a moment and say, all right, I might be feeling this because of this thing that happened. I might not be able to control the thing that happened. I might not be able to control the feelings or even the thoughts that I'm having. But what I can control is the way I react to it. And by controlling, funny enough, by controlling the way you react to it, what will happen is that little by little, you're going to be able to influence the emotions that you feel when this kind of stimuli arises, and you're going to also be able to influence the thoughts at the same time, and eventually you're going to be able to, for example, experience pain, like physical pain, and you're going to be able to experience gratitude out of it. And that's a
100%.
very 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 powerful thing. And it's very interesting that you mentioned that, because suffering arises when we are trying to escape something. But if we accept whatever is going on, and we don't try to escape it. Like for example, pain. Let's say I have experienced that with physical pain a lot of times. That you will experience the physical pain, and if you don't desire to escape the pain and you accept it and you simply become aware of it and decide, all right, how do I want to react to it? Actually, there's not like any reaction that I could have, like like complaining about it or whatever, or just like, I don't know, like rolling into a ball and crying or whatever. It's not going to help it. So what's the best response I can have to the pain? Not react to it. I don't react to it, and all of a sudden pain becomes only an indicator of damage into the body, nothing else. And it doesn't fucking
Yeah,
matter.
yeah, 100%. And I have a question for you. This is more a sort of a bigger question. Why do you think you were one of the people who actually discovered self-improvement and then decided to take action on it? Because there are certainly many people who have stumbled upon it who were in a similar situation in which you were in, but decided to do something completely different and maybe end it all.
I guess because I love myself too much. I couldn't bear the idea of just like the idea of killing myself. It was just kind of like on the back pocket, but I was just like, oh, there must be a way, you know. And I always believe in myself too much to not be able to believe I could improve. And I had like this kind of like vanity and pride that moved me to think like I gotta be great. I cannot live a mediocre life. I cannot be like everyone else. I gotta do something that proves to the world what I already believe to be true. That is that I am superior, that I am more powerful, that I am something special. In the end, you realize that, like when you get into spirituality and all this stuff, you realize that it goes in very deep, and you kind of like detach yourself from the ego and realize basically that everything that you experience and everything that you come in contact with in this world is just a reflection of universal consciousness. It's just consciousness itself, and you are just an expression of it, and you are just like experiencing yourself, experiencing like your consciousness experiencing itself through you, through this body. And when you come to terms with, well, like when you know that, not just from the conscious mind, but you have experienced it because you have been practicing like this kind of stuff, you have been engaging with meditation, breath work, and like these kind of esoteric and spiritual practices, what will happen is that you get to embody it and you get to actually feel it and not just know it from a conscious level, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. It's very similar to many things in life. You can have, for example, if you think that eating clean is good for you, for example, but if you've never actually experienced a positive impact of eating clean, you're not going to eat clean because the result isn't there. You have the information, but you don't have the real world output. And I think that goes for everything, like whether that's self-improvement, whether that's whatever like area of life you want to apply that to. I think
Mm.
it's definitely true. And what is interesting is that many people that I talk about who actually who have been deep down, like in hell, so to speak, they have always felt this feeling of like wanting to be more, feeling like they're a bit special, not in the sense where like they're better than everybody and all the people are worse, but they've always wanted to prove to themselves and to other people that I can actually become a better version of myself. I can actually like pull this off. And that's also something that has been a very big part of my journey, as I mentioned earlier, with going through some harder times, especially when you're young, like when you're 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old. You don't know how to cope with it because you haven't got much life experience. However, it makes you step down into like the unknown, and you realize that, oh, I've actually got time on my side, which is like the most valuable asset of all. And I feel like that has pulled me into wanting to take more action. It's just like wanting to be an inspiration to somebody else who might be going through something similar that I've went through, for example. And I'm not saying that I've went through something super difficult, but it's just the pain of like being young in the era of like internet and constantly comparing yourself to others, and maybe having your parents like split up or being bullied or whatever that might have been. It's like taking yourself out of it and influencing others positively has like become an essential part of my life, and I'm super grateful for all of the things that have happened to me, good and bad.
Oh, 100%. And actually, I got a very interesting take on this idea of like, have you ever come across this theory called the Great Man of History theory? It's a theory
I'm
in
not sure.
anthropology. It's a theory in anthropology that talks about like this concept that history is shaped by this great man, in which all the forces of like all the synchronicities and all the forces of the universe kind of like combine to allow him to just like do these great things like Napoleon or Alexander the Great and that kind of stuff. And by studying their lives and their biographies and the way these men used to think, um, I have come to the realization that the most impactful and successful men in history in the world had this insane borderline delusion that they were the greatest men that had ever stepped the face of the earth. And realizing that, because the thing is that being this level of delusional, like, is so powerful. Because if you believe so wholeheartedly on your own legend, all of a sudden you become, you live up to your own standards, and you do things that nobody's willing to do, that nobody has the capacity to do, because everybody is held back by their own limiting beliefs. Everybody just allows it. But when you're able to believe in yourself with that level of certainty, what happens is that you break through every single limiting belief. And if you're able to combine that with enough humility to see when you're doing things wrong, and reiterate and just like think about it, analyze, and correct course to actually get it right, and you are able to have at least some level of empathy, that you want to help people, even though you might consider yourself to be like the envy all of human, like of peak human performance. What will happen is that you become so insanely powerful, and you can achieve anything that you desire. There's a book that I haven't read that book, but apparently my ideas, people have told me like, oh bro, like, oh yeah, so you read The Magic of Thinking Big as well. And I'm just like, no, I haven't read that book, but I came to these conclusions. So apparently the writer is right, bro. Like, the writer is right. If he's agreeing with me, then he's fucking right. I'm telling you, like, people are so scared of thinking big and having big dreams and actually desiring these things, because they believe that they cannot achieve it. They get stuck in their heads, and they reject themselves before anybody rejects them. Like, think about like the example of a guy that wants to like call approach a girl or whatever. Like, this guy is going to end up beating himself down before the girl even rejects him. This guy, he's going to get nervous, he's not going to talk to her, and he's just going to miss that opportunity. But it's her job to reject you if you are not enough for her. But to you, rejecting yourself, that's the lowest testosterone move you can do in your whole fucking life. And it's the same for women, for sales, for money, for everything. You should never reject yourself. You should never think like, oh fuck, like, I know I couldn't do that, I shouldn't try that or whatever, because the moment you do that, you're lost. You lost the battle before it even begun.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think that the only thing that really separates the people who win from the people who don't is just their self-belief, because their self-belief leads to their thoughts and their emotions, and that leads to their actions. Like we are in some ways like determined by our emotions. If we constantly feel positive, like we feel energetic, we feel motivated, we are going to be more likely to take action. Even though discipline is important, we are still in some ways like determined by how we feel and our emotions. And I think that's a good thing to a degree. But the thing that I've realized with people who also like have some aspirations at my age, people don't take action at all. Like I'm 16, and many people I see their competence, I see that they can actually amount to something perhaps greater that I'm doing right now, for example. But what I see is that they don't take action and they're not willing to go through the pain to actually achieve their goals. And that's that's just the sad reality of it, because I'm building momentum and I can sort of see where I'm heading, because I know where when I'm gonna be older that I'm gonna accomplish my goals, because I have this I have this like self belief, and I know that I can achieve these things if I just put my mind to it. And people don't realize the power of self belief and the power of just like doing stuff every single day, even though you have no clue where you're gonna end up. Just doing stuff that's positive for your future self is just like, it's such a simple methodology, but on the other hand, there aren't many people who are pursuing it. So you're going to be different if you are somebody who just puts in some work for your future self. And if you're willing to go all the way, you can change like the lives of others. You can amount to such great things that it's unimaginable. Because truthfully, we all have the same we all have the same starting place to a degree. We're all humans. We all have a brain. We all have the capacity to do that. So I 100% agree with that. It's all internal.
Bro. And it's so funny because when I was younger, like I kind of like always had this crazy ass self belief. But like you mentioned earlier, like with regards to these guys that have like this talent, like this inborn talent, and they never actually take action on it, and they don't become who they are supposed to become because of that. It's so funny because when you believe in yourself so much, there's a trap. There's a trap that I'm very lucky I developed the capacity for that awareness and overcame that trap. But the trap is that you believe yourself too good to do the work.
Yeah.
And when you believe yourself too good to do the work, and when you have like that nagging fear behind you, thinking like, oh, maybe what would happen if I like, because you have this ego, right? And you think like, but if I do like what I'm supposed to do and I fail, then that's going to prove that I'm shit. So it's kind of like a fragile ego, and you don't want to break it. You're like afraid of actually taking action and actually breaking that belief that you have about yourself, because your self image is based on that. But once you get into the mindset that it doesn't matter if you fail, because the only real failure is if you give up or if you don't start to begin with. And you gotta you gotta go through the pain of failure, and you gotta go through that in order to get to where you want to be. And when you stop attaching your identity, your ego, and your self-worth to the outcome that you're going to get initially, is when you're able to overcome that fear and move past that and face reality and actually assess it in real time. You're able all of a sudden to actually go, do, fail, and reiterate until you actually get it. Because now you're not going to go like, when you're not going to lay down and die. You're not going to, oh shit, I failed now. I'm a loser. I proved to myself I'm a fucking loser. Not like the thing that the great winner I thought I was. And then you're going to just not do anything else about it. But when you understand that your power relies on facing failure without ever losing enthusiasm, that's when you actually become a fucking winner. Winston Churchill used to say that his definition of success was the capacity to move from failure to failure without ever losing enthusiasm.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I very much agree with that. And I think if you look at anybody who's been successful or has done anything of like value, they have failed so many more times than the people who don't try and the people who are mediocre. Because truthfully, like when you're a bit like when you go down like your own path in life, you decide like this is where I want to go and this is where I'm heading. I feel like there is so much more capacity to win and to fail at the same time because you don't have a script to follow. You don't really know where you're going. However, you're able to actually like point in a direction, and as long as you fail and you keep like getting up and you fail and you get up and you fail and you get up, that's eventually you're going to end up at where you wanted to be. And I feel like I think everyone who's done something of value has failed so many times. And truthfully, the failure isn't really failure. It's just learning. It's just a part of the process. It's just a part of getting closer to where you want to be. For example, like if you go to the gym, for example, and you want to get stronger, if you fail a PR, it's not like a fail. It's just a learning lesson for you to tap into it, and the next time to get stronger. Through it's just feedback basically to get to your goal. Like, oh, I did this wrong. I can do this better, and that also keeps the enthusiasm up because you have this constant feedback of failing and of making mistakes.
100%. Victor, it has been a great call. Thank you so much for taking the time to jump on it with me, man. Like, definitely, I love to talk about these subjects. I gotta go now, but
Same
it
here.
has been amazing, man. Amazing. Delusion backed up just by words is just illusion, but delusion backed up by relentless action, that's called faith, brother. Remember
Yeah,
duty, honor, and pride. I'll see you on the next one.
yeah. See you.